Hey Mitchell, thank you so much for joining me on my show. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, okay, well, you are the founder, you're a partner in
I,
Praxis,
I am COO.
COO. I looked at your website. It's really cool. I have a lot of thoughts and ideas about the workshops that you guys are putting in place and how I feel like that like really fits into our culture. It's something that like I am excited about. I'm excited to talk to you about that. But before we get into Praxis, I like to start by just introducing you. Where you're from, where do you live? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, that's probably as good a starting point as any. So I'm originally from Oklahoma, small town, Midwest, middle of
Cool.
nowhere, Oklahoma, and I now live in Denver, Colorado. But a lot has happened since I left Oklahoma years ago. But
Yeah.
my personal story, to give a little bit of context, is a really important part of what got me to where I am today and the
Mm.
work that we're doing at Praxis. And, I was that kid who always knew he wanted to leave home. There was something bigger out there. I didn't know what it was, but there was something bigger that I went out chasing. And down the road, when I got into college, I just going through school was so painful for me. I was a great student, but when I got into college, everything started to conflict for me. It was like there's all these cool things going on outside. I got
Mm.
I got involved working with a startup, was working several other part-time jobs outside of school. And then there was this like classroom world where it was like follow the rules, complete assignments, show up, do things. And as far as I had known up to that point, that was the way to succeed, was to, get good grades in school and all that. But meanwhile, outside the classroom, there were all these cool things going on outside of it. And it kind of opened my eyes to this kind of struggle that I think a lot of young people go through, where it's like, should I continue to go to school and get these credentials, get grades, study different things as a way to figure out what I want to do, as a way to become successful someday, or should I just go start working on some stuff that interests me? And so I struggled with that for several years. Got out of college, started working a bunch of different jobs in that pursuit of like something bigger. I knew it was out there. I couldn't articulate it, and it took quite a few years, and so many different bad jobs, so many different jobs that I just were not fun, but were all valuable learning experiences on along the way, until I ultimately came across Praxis and met the founder, and he challenged me, like, what if I can introduce you to some people who are doing really cool work, stuff that it'll give you an opportunity to dive in and see entrepreneurship in real life action, like to get exposure to businesses from the inside versus just this theoretical knowledge. I was about 2 weeks from going back to law school at the time, and I was like, you know what? Why not? I pushed all my chips in the table, and that was kind of the jumping off point. That was several years ago now, and I haven't looked back since. It was been a great decision, but that kind of that kind of making that leap into the unknown was really what unlocked so many of the answers that I'd been searching for along the way. So anyway, now it's an awesome privilege to work with younger people who are trying to figure those things out for themselves, and I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that today.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And so I'm on episode like 80 something of my podcast. And I used to really, really kind of prepare for them, because I get all nervous and I want to like
Yeah.
say the right thing. But I've found through doing it that one of the best reasons to start with people's stories is because like it's in the story that you usually find the why behind like
Yeah.
what they're doing. And it kind of segues perfectly because as I was introducing you a little bit, like a lot of when I was looking at Praxis, a lot of the ideas and the things that came to my head are it seems like some of the conflicting ideas that you had, where it conflicts with like the standard education society.
Yep.
You're learning, or excuse me, you're being educated, but are you learning?
Yeah.
You're going through a process, but are you developing skills? There's just so much, and especially now, it's April 11th when we record this, so everybody's been bunkered in the house for like a month now, and it's just showing more and more how important it is to be able to like apply some of the skills directly into real life situations. And so I'm teeing you up a little bit because I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody like what Praxis is, how you guys developed these boot camps, and I'm hoping that you can articulate like how what you're doing is you're kind of giving young people especially like a running start, you know, so that like as they go into the system they already have some momentum.
Yeah, that is a good setup. So so I appreciate it. But
Sure.
the simplest version, Praxis is a 6-month boot camp for entrepreneurial young people who
Yeah.
are looking to develop real world skills, get real world experience, and at the end, it results in a full-time job, usually at a growing startup. So um, to dive a little bit more deeply
Yeah,
into
please do.
what that entails,
Yeah.
we try to find, we know that there are a lot of young people out there who college is really not the best next step for them, even if it may not even be right ever, but they're looking for something that college really can't provide for them.
Yeah.
And this isn't to be anti-college or anything like that. It's about helping people facilitate the best discovery process so that they can start their career strong. So that's an exciting part of it is our boot camp helps people get a little bit better context for where their interests and skills are valued in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And we help them hone those skills and fill those gaps between where they are today, where they need to be hireable through a 6-month boot camp, very project based. There are a lot of workshops, and on the end of it, in terms of like getting hired, our sweet spot is really like non-technical roles, sales, marketing, customer support, operations, roles that are functions in every good business
Mm-hmm.
and all offer really good upside. But you don't need, they're not gated by some 4-year degree. In most
Of
cases, you
course.
don't need to go get, an engineering degree or anything like that to be successful and build a really strong jumping off point for your career, whatever those career aspirations down the road are. So we're helping people figure out really strong starting points for their careers and and also do it better, faster, cheaper than sitting in class for 4 years, accumulating thousands of dollars of student debt. So it's an exciting thing to be doing, and it's also just really fulfilling to be working with people who they're trying to solve a lot of the problems that I
Yeah.
had all those big questions when I was first starting out too. So
Yeah, man. Okay, so let me dive into this a little bit. What are your personal thoughts on higher education? Have you become anti-college? Have you become um, I'll cushion this for you. I see the value of college. Um, I see more and more that it's just kind of turning into a racket, and something is going to change because it's inevitable. Like the structure itself can't, the system can't support itself, um, and it's almost a little bit outdated. You know, like obviously, I want to make sure a brain surgeon goes to college for like 12 years. What is it like? Maybe more. But you talked about sales, and I never went to college. Um, I've naturally been gifted, I guess, with the art of conversation, and like I can sell stuff. And in a lot of ways, I always thought that it's the most valuable skill that there is because it
Mhm.
doesn't matter um, like how talented you are at a particular craft or how skilled you are at something. Like if you can't get somebody to pay you for it, then
Yeah,
it's just a
doesn't
hobby, you
matter. It
know?
doesn't
Like,
matter. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a hobby. So I'm always like really appreciative of places that talk about the skills that directly fit into like the modern workforce, like you said, like sales, operations, man, like at tax code. How come colleges don't teach tax code? You know, like it blows my mind. I don't understand it. So what are your views on college? Is this something that like you're intentionally trying to disrupt because you think Praxis is a better way, or are you just sort of like easing around it a little bit?
Yeah. So I would say my personal views are a little bit more radical than what our views are and what we really care about doing in terms of the business. Like
Yeah.
my personal views are I went to college. I am glad looking back that I spent so much time and energy in high school, padding my resume, succeeding in the classroom, making top marks on tests. I'm glad that I did that now, simply because I walked out of college with no student debt. I wish I would have woken up a little bit earlier to all the opportunities outside in the real world that you didn't have to go through college to access. But I'm glad that I at least avoided the student debt that so many other people that's their route, and they get out and they don't even know what they want to do. And suddenly they have this mortgage hanging over their head that they have to make decisions based on these bills that are due.
Yeah, and you can't default on it.
Oh my gosh. That's the part that I struggle most with in terms of college, and whether it's valuable or not, I can put that to the side. And just the question that I care much more about answering is this the best way? Is this the most cost-effective way to access a really good career? And I don't think it is. I think definitively, that people are being duped. I think that the social narrative around college is so strong that most people don't stand a fighting chance. It's very difficult to stand up to the social pressure of your family or your friends or just everybody. That's the narrative. You're in high school and it's, where are you going to college next year? What are you doing? And the people who escape that, they're treated like social pariahs. The people who don't go, and that's terrible. And don't get me wrong, people that go, that's great. I went to college. Most of my friends went, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're gonna go, at least make sure that it's your decision and it's what you want to do, and that you're comfortable with the cost that you have to bear as a result of that. If it's not paid for, if you have to take on student debt, just be comfortable that you're not making a 4-year decision. You're making, in many cases, a 15, 20-year commitment to this thing. And the part that frustrates me the most is the people who they don't even know what all is out there in the real world yet, and they go make this big 20-year commitment, and then they get to the other side. It's difficult to find a job, but they have bills due, so they go take whatever job they can get, and then they start climbing the ladder. And it's just this really, really vicious cycle in many cases where, I meet people in their mid-20s, late 20s, even in their 30s, and it's like, I really don't love my job. This isn't something I'm passionate about, but I'm now kind of in it. And and the later on that cycle continues, now I'm married, I have kids, I have a mortgage, and I have all these things now, and I'm kind of locked in. I'm trapped with, the term that one of my good friends, I'm going to steal from him, is the copper handcuffs, where I'm making just enough money that it's really difficult for me to go start chasing the thing that I originally wanted, or the thing that I care about. And so what we're trying to do with Praxis is not necessarily disrupt college or, get rid of that or whatever, but it's to give people a fighting chance to start their career strong, at least a way to go discover what makes them come alive sooner, and do it cheaper, to do it faster. And hopefully through that experience, they can find the thing that makes them come alive, the thing that they're good at, the thing that somebody else is willing to pay them money, and they never have to go rely on a third-party credential to access that next thing. They develop this mindset that whatever they want in life, there's a way to go create the opportunity to access that. And so that's a long way of saying I have a lot of hostility to college, but I think there are definitely alternatives that offer people an as good of an alternative, if not a better in many cases.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with the mindset of it. I'm not, although in social standards, some of my views would be considered, quote, radical. I don't see college and my view of college as radical. Like, I'm not trying to shut down the system.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm saying, I believe what you believe, where in a lot of cases there's better ways. In a lot of cases there's like way more cost-effective ways that'll get you in the same place, if not further along, faster for cheaper. And so when I was looking at Praxis, that's exactly what I see. I see something that can probably get you further along faster for cheaper. One of the other things that I really liked about it, and this is another little conversation, is okay. So if you don't go to college, what's the other like online uh, educational opportunity you see? And it's courses. And so I'm a partner in a website called Copyblogger, and
Mhm.
it's a pretty it's like a really it's a great website, and we teach people how to build online businesses through content marketing, and through that, we sell a lot of educational products. And I've seen through the last 10 years that this idea of like a static course, like buy this thing, start it, do it on your own time, isn't that good of an option either, simply because the completion rates on them are so small. And I think that that is a problem, because one of the things that college does provide that I hear a lot and I completely agree with is just that group think mentality. Like, you learn so much by being around other people. And so with Copyblogger, just giving like a little bit of a parallel, what we're trying to do is develop like interactive workshops, so to speak. We're like, yes, we
Yeah.
have course material, but it's not just something where like you buy it, here you go, let me know when you're done. You do it together, and it is an experience. Like, we're calling it experiential. And when I look at Praxis, that's what you guys do. It's a boot camp. Like, you're providing an actual experience. Um, Elaborate on that for me.
Yeah. So I think that it goes, want to back up and go to what you said about courses for a second
Yeah.
to make this point. And I think that it goes back to like, what is the point of what you're learning? And I think at school, it's very difficult to divorce the learning from the grade. And like the grade is the metric that you're measured on, whether you learned this or
Yeah.
not. And I think that that is a difficult, it's a difficult starting point whenever you get out in the real world, where there's no longer grades assigned, there's no longer points for attendance. You are now trying to figure out how can I convince somebody else that what I learned, I actually learned beyond just theory. I can actually apply this in the real world. And it's also a valuable thing to know. And that's the part that, when we think about Praxis, it's not designed, our curriculum and our experience is not designed around facilitating curriculum in a way that is like, complete these assignments because this is what we say. It's much more about, let us give you real world exposure to real projects, real types of work that people do in the real world, in these
Cool.
real roles. And let's help you explore those things so you can discover which areas you really like, and also build projects with the express intent of leveraging those to get hired. Like, you're building a strong portfolio to manufacture a signal that when a hiring manager or a company or an entrepreneur sees this, they see that you have some skills. They can actually see your skills in action, and they can see those and make the bet, a safer bet, that you are someone worth investing in, as whether that's hiring you or whatever the case is. Those, being able to showcase your skills, opens more opportunities than being able to put them on a resume and bullet points. And that's the leap that I care about making. And I think that that's the part that I'm really hopeful about, the way education and learning can evolve in the future with technology now, where there's a much shorter, there's a much smaller gap between learning and market value. Like where you're learning with the express intent of using that to make money, that's a much better learning environment, I think,
Mm.
than competing for this signal, this grade, or this third party stamp of approval. So that's the part that we care about, a much more real world valuable skill development than just completing assignments. And I think that that's an area that frustrates a lot of people with traditional education.
I love how you said, what's the point? Like, what are you doing it for? What's the objective here? I work with a business coach, and it seems like every single one of our sessions is the same thing over and over again, where like I think about all the ideas and like the how, and like what am I going to do, and all that. And it always comes back to like, what's the point? What are you trying to do? And when you answer that, at the end, and then you work your way backwards, you have like a much quicker and smoother path to getting to your end goal. So as soon as you said that, that really clicked for me. Like, what are you doing this for? Stop wasting time with anything that's like superfluous on the edges, right? Like,
Yeah.
get there. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. When you think about it that way, listening to you say that, it just made me think that, like, competing for a grade seems kind of like a detour to the end goal, and I think this is something I've been wrestling with my own biases and assumptions lately on is why do people even go to college? I think that if you look at Gallup polls or the research out there, they say it's to get better jobs. Like an overwhelming number of students polled say it's to get better jobs. But I don't think that's really the real reason. I think that's kind of this justification. I think what people are looking for is this social experience. There's this fear of missing out on a very attractive social experience. You can go get plugged in with a lot of people. You can go find people who are interested in the same things as you. Maybe you went to high school and you felt like an outcast. You didn't feel like your tribe was in high school. And like college is a way, to be in one place with a lot of people who, maybe a higher likelihood that they're shared interests, that you can meet people for the first time.
Yeah.
And there's all the other, far more social, far more social experience as well, like the partying and all of the sports and all of the things that people want. And I think that's something that people crave. I think that's something people crave, but I don't see that as a good enough justification for the cost or the lost opportunity to earn experience or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, like, all those superfluous detours into they come at a really high cost once you actually get out on the other side and you're trying to figure out how to get hired. So
have you ever seen the Ivory Tower?
I don't think I haven't seen that.
I watched it like 10 years ago. It's a documentary about the college bubble, basically. It was really fascinating. If anybody wants to watch it, it's called the Ivory Tower. It's pretty short too. It's like a well done documentary where they got right to the point. But what you were talking about there, and this is my last point because I want to hear more about like the ins and outs of your business and what you're doing.
Yeah.
But like they were filming these kids that were touring Ohio State, and the first place they brought them to was this like amazing rec center that had like a legitimate huge rock climbing wall. And I just saw these kids, they were looking at it, I was like, oh my God, I want to be here for this experience, without understanding that they're paying for that rock climbing wall with their tuition. Yep. And Ohio State is, God, I don't even know how much you have to pay to go there. So yeah, I do agree that there's this narrative that time in our lives where we're like young and free, like we have to spend that by balling out with these wild experiences. And like, there's a place for that, like I don't want to take anybody's youth away, but man, yep. I'm extremely, extremely grateful that in my 20s, in my early 20s, I decided to, be a businessman.
Yeah.
Because now I'm 33, and like as humbly as I can say, I got a great life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't worry about my mortgage. Plant flowers on the weekend, and like me and my wife hang out, and like if we want to go somewhere, we do it. And that's like the life that I always wanted to live when I was in my early 20s, thinking like I can't wait to get there. So the cost reward. What you were saying, like I completely agree. So, okay, I'm going to cut that off. And thank you for chatting about that with me, because I always find that conversation really appealing. For Praxis, especially, one thing that I want to learn more about, I'm an SEO, basically. Like I grow my companies through search, and your website, it doesn't have like a whole lot of content on it. You basically get right to the point. Like, this is our program. This is what we're doing. What is your guys' marketing scheme? Like, how are you getting the word out there?
Yeah. So we do if you go, there's a career resources page on the website, and that's where most of our content lives. We have so many blog posts. Blogging has been a big part of our makeup. Like a big part of our philosophy is learning out loud. So everyone on our team has always been very, very big into putting the things they're working on out there. So, whether that's
I'm
content
sorry, where on
creation,
the site did you say that was? I want to make sure
there
I
should be
stay.
a career launch resources page on the homepage.
Ah, that's your
Link up at the
blog.
top. If you go in there, there's blogs, there's our podcast, there are books we've written, our newsletter, all sorts of different resources there that we're always creating tons of content. So that's always been a huge part of our brand, because it's sort of that leading by example thing as well. Like a lot of our, through the boot camp, our participants are creating content, whether it's blogs, blogging is a big part of it, but blogs, projects, all of these things. And it's helping people learn the value of putting their work out into the real world as a way of manufacturing a stronger signal. And so we that's something we care a lot about, and we try to lead by example on that. And we're all very big into content creation. Beyond that, we have a lot, we do some speaking, we come on podcasts. We've done our own podcasts as well. A big part, we do Facebook advertising, search is some, gets some attention, like SEO and that types of things. So there are a lot of different things we do. And because our team is still small and we're very nimble, we're always rapidly experimenting with new channels and new kind of marketing experiments, and rapidly testing, like, let's go run this experiment for 30 days and come up with a strong hypothesis, whether this is, like let's try and put a priority score. What's our estimated impact here? What's, how easy is this thing to spin up? What's our confidence level that this is going to be successful? Then let's go run that for 30 days, 60 days and look at the results. If it was something that worked, let's double down on it. If it's something that didn't work, let's go back to the drawing board and see if we can conduct a better experiment, or we need to scrap this and do something else. So we're always running a lot of stuff beyond the kind of core channels that we've had a lot of traction in over the years.
Yeah, that's really cool. What has been working for you so far? What's working best?
Yeah. So a couple of things that I'm excited about right now that we're doing are, podcast outreach. So we're guest appearing on a number of podcasts, and we're having a lot of really good conversations and trying to get our story out in front of new audiences. So that's a big one. And then also putting on sessions. So live info sessions for, either our website visitors or people that are already, newsletter subscribers, or student groups. So within that vein, there are some student groups and kind of segments that what we do is already a really natural thing for them. One of those is homeschoolers. So I'm a homeschooler. I'm about to graduate high school and I'm looking for the next thing. That is a market that we deliver a ton of value for, because homeschoolers are already kind of naturally inclined to this idea of self-directed learning experience. And that's something that really plays well as this next step for them, for the ones who aren't interested in going to college next.
Self-directed learning experience. Love that.
Yeah.
That really wraps it up. I think that's great. I think to touch on that point again, so what are they, webinars that you guys are doing where you talk about the...
Yep. Just a few times a month, we'll do info sessions, webinar style, where anybody can come and attend with their questions. And we'll talk a little bit more about Praxis, and also just, what's the best way to go discover what you want to be when you grow up. So we'll talk a little bit about career discovery and build most of it around, our program experience and what it's like too.
Yeah. I think webinars are obviously a really, really good fit. Like, webinars are changing. Like, I'm an online marketer, so like I always kind of go back to this spot. I'm really interested in like the schemes and the strategies that people use for different industries. I think you guys obviously have an SEO play, because there's going to be a ton of people searching like, what do I do if I don't go to college? Something like that. And webinars traditionally have kind of been like, it's almost sort of, what am I trying to say? Like, people are catching on. Like, I get that I'm
Yep.
signing up for this webinar because you're going to give me like an intro. It's not necessarily like an educational webinar. It's just sort of
Yep.
like a little, give me a taste of what it is that you're actually trying to
Yep.
sell. And in the defense of webinars, so to speak, like, if you're going to put content out there, you want to try to get a return. Like, it's a marketing tool. You want to grow your
Yep.
business, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I've found, and I'm optimistic about the idea that, uh, like we talked about before, webinars are becoming less of like a pitch presentation and more of just like a whole interactive experience where people
Yep.
build a network and build community. And so when you said that, like, I just noticed that you didn't say webinars and you said interactive, I think is the
Info
word that you
session.
used. Yeah,
Yeah.
info sessions. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So, and another point on community, this is a part of what we've been doing that's a priority and something that I love the most is unlike traditional education, higher ed, like we're not aiming for, a let's enroll as many students as possible. We are very committed to building a high value, long-term professional community with
Mm.
our participants and alumni. And that's something that we've been investing in and going to continue to invest in. We have amazing engagement with our alumni and our participants. They're, digital community, strong digital community where people are, they are the things that are happening as a result of that online community where people have a place to kind of come together around their shared interest is really cool. Like for instance, one of the groups that's going on, an alumni started this a couple of years ago as a sales mastermind. So there are a lot of our participants who, when they graduate, they go get placed in sales roles. They start their sales careers. And these are some of the best, like, rising star salespeople I know. And they meet on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and just talk about different sales problems they're running into, how to solve them. They brainstorm different tools, like, you name it, all the different questions that everybody early in their career in sales has. Like, this is an awesome community that's kind of sprung out of our community of participants, alumni. And there are a lot of different examples, but that's one of my favorite ones.
I can tell that I made a decision like 2 episodes ago to do video. I think we talked about this because people
Yeah.
usually have been uncomfortable with video, but I think everyone's getting more comfortable with it now. And I really like it because if anybody's watching this interview on video, like, you can see that when you talk about the community and you talk about the alumni and like the development of your customers or clients or whatever you call them, from coming into the boot camp to like leaving and being introduced into the workforce, like, your face, you get really excited about it. I can tell you're passionate, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's the rewarding work that I was looking for
That you
so many
wanted to do,
years.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, that is really exciting. I'm happy that we finally got a chance to have this conversation. The last week we had to kind of bail on the podcast twice. And last night, I think I messaged you. I was like, yo, man, can you do tomorrow morning? And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I'm really glad that we did. I want to wrap up with some questions about the other side, because I think this is always important to talk about. And I like hearing people open up about this. Like, what have been some of the challenges with it? It's always easy to talk about like your business and your product, and your ideas and how good it's going, but there's always pushback of some kind. Have some of the challenges been like from a method, like an ethos standpoint? Are people just telling you like, no, this isn't the route, you shouldn't be promoting this? Have some of the challenges been straight, like acquisition and sales? What's been some of the hard stuff?
Yeah. So I'll talk about two challenges. One is more of a personal thing that I run into and with our business. And the other one is a very, very much a business branding, messaging, product problem. Let's talk about that one first. And that's the acceptance. So we're still in the early innings. Praxis, our first class was in 2014, and we've had hundreds of participants since then, but we're still in the very early innings of an alternative route to your career, alternative to college. We're still in the very early innings. The social narrative around college is very strong still. And so there are some pockets of the market, like I said, like homeschoolers or people who have already made the decision they're not going to college, or they've dropped out of college. we deliver incredible value for them. But there are always these conversations where we're running into somebody who's on the cusp of going to college, or, they're in college and they know that they're not happy, but making that decision to opt out is a very difficult thing. It's not just a personal decision. In many cases, it's a decision that you have to accept. You have to accept the disapproval of your family, of your friends, of other people that they're just not familiar with an alternative.
Yeah.
And that can be a very difficult thing for an 18 to 25-year-old, person that's still trying to figure it out, because it's very difficult to go tell people, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm not going to go this route that I've decided is not right. It's very difficult to not have a plan and sell that to other people in your life. So that's something we're always trying to guide people through that decision-making process. I'm not going to, I don't, by no means do I want to say, hey, Praxis is right for everybody. It's not. It's definitely not.
Too pushy either.
It's not. Yeah. But I want to offer a soft landing for people, because I know how big of a leap it was for me to make whenever I decided 2 weeks before law school to go this route instead. And so I want to be a sounding board and challenge people to think critically for themselves versus trying to convince them that what we're doing is right for them. That's something people have to arrive at on their own accord. Yeah. So that's a big one.
That's the first one. There's like a sunk cost fallacy in there too, right? Because I'm already 2 years in, but like, what are you going to get out of another 2 years of something that you don't want? And that's like a real psychological thing. That whole sunk cost, I'm really into that. I see it everywhere, and I think to myself, like, why is it so hard for us just to feel like we already spent money?
I know.
It's not worth it.
Let me go double my losses now.
Yeah, exactly. Let me double my losses. Okay, so that's the first challenge, and then you mentioned that one was a little bit more like just personal or in the business.
Yeah. So this other one, it's a business challenge, but it's more of a personal one. And I think that this is, I imagine a lot of businesses come to this, and it's what do we want our business to become?
Yeah.
And there's this ebb and flow. When I look at other programs out there that are trying to solve problems in a similar space, or I look at what colleges are doing, and there's this almost like sense of impatience, just dissatisfaction with the state of our business. I always want to be better. I always want to be, 2 years ahead of where we are. And I look out into the world and I see these other businesses, and a lot of them, I get the sense that they want to grow fast. They want to build this massively scalable thing. And I'm always at odds with whether that's really what we want to do, or if we want to just focus on quality. And if growth happens, that's awesome, but it's this rub between quantity and quality. And I truly believe that the real value in what we're doing is in building a strong community and in building something that it is a high quality experience for everyone, even if the route that they're taking through our boot camp is a little bit different. It's a little bit customized. I have no interest in being a one size fits all solution for people. And sometimes it's a very difficult personal struggle when I think about where we are and where we could be if we backed off from quality and just said, hey, how could we get, how could we double enrollment over the next 9 months? Like, yeah, we just let anybody into the program. So it's always this rub between how do we grow without compromising the things that matter most to us?
I really relate to that, man. My marketing agency, most people who listen to me know my story, but we specialize with healthcare industries, like mostly behavioral health. And yeah, like, God, we've been open for 8 years, so like we're an established business, and especially within the field. And I can't tell you how many times we've sat around and be like, look, if we kind of take this thing and we just productize it and we just make a template, like I think we could probably triple. And there's been times where we did that, and then all of a sudden you have, 14 people working for you, and you got HR, and health insurance is always a pain in the ass, and clients sending you emails all the time because they tell you, right, like customization is the enemy of scale. If you can just have one thing and pump it out as many times as possible. But at the same time, I really go back and forth because there's the art of the customization and like the art of
Yeah.
serving a client, and like building a relationship with them and like knowing who they are, that I personally enjoy a lot. So like we've been doing it long enough. We've hit a pretty good middle ground, like we're fine. But that battle, it never goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're always thinking like, should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? There's these other people over there that are seeming like they're having success, but then you don't know because you find out
Yeah.
that their business is actually like upside down.
Yeah.
I get it, man. That mental battle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to just, I think to sit back and reflect, like do kind of this internal checkpoint
Yeah.
and trying to remind yourself that it doesn't matter what other people are doing. You don't know
I
their
know.
backstory. You don't really know all the facts, and like figure out a way to be comfortable with what you're doing and confident in the decisions you're making. Even if they end up being wrong, like you got to be confident and cut yourself some slack that we're all learning. And if you're building a business that it didn't exist before, this is a new thing. It's a different business. There is no playbook. And so you're going to make mistakes, and you have to figure out a way to, make those mistakes with confidence and
Uh,
take them in stride.
yeah. So then last question, man. I really appreciate your time. This was an awesome
You bet.
conversation. Like, how are you doing that? How are you catching yourself when you're, comparing Praxis to other people? Are you just reminding you? My thing is, I remember like, where am I right now? I have a big thing of just
Mhm.
like being in the moment. And I've talked to so many people over the years. Everybody struggles with this. You look at what other people are doing and you think for some reason that because they're not you, they're doing it better. So like, what is your way of dealing with that comparison?
Yeah, I think it's probably first and foremost is like just being too hard on myself. Is
Yeah.
is I think like anybody who steps into the ring as an entrepreneur is probably prone to being really critical with
Hmm.
your business and the way you're making decisions. So that's part of it, is like you got to go through the emotional roller coaster a little bit, and then I think you got to figure out how to manage those emotions. So a thing that I do a lot is journal. I journal a ton. I
Cool.
try
Me
and
too.
get down my thoughts and the things that I feel like are going right, the things that I feel like are going wrong. And then also like trying to build systems or processes that allow you to be brutally honest and objective with how you're doing. And so that's when I think about, let's talk about like marketing or growth or sales or whatever, is like if you can objectify the metrics you're trying to hit and make those really black and white, it makes it a little bit easier to quantify whether you're making progress or not.
Mm.
And and those metrics are based on your business's performance, not everybody
Not
else's. So
everyone
like
else's. Yeah.
measure yourself against yourself, and just try and make sure you're making progress, and put that into terms of like what are the goals of the company. If you're trying to make a 10% improvement every month, like if you're doing that, you're doing great. You're doing what you need to be doing for your business. And so the term that I like to use is like, get your own yardstick. You
Yeah.
gotta find a way to measure yourself according to your own standard of or your own units, I guess. So that's it's always a struggle though. So
Yeah. I love that, man. I guarantee people are really going to relate to that. Uh, Mitch, thank you one more time so much for jumping on last minute, making this happen with me. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. I hope we stay in touch. I think we have a lot of common. And last but not least, we mentioned Praxis a million times. We never mentioned the website. Where can people learn more about you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they inquire more about Praxis itself?
yeah, I appreciate it as well. This has been a blast. If anybody's interested in learning more, visit discoverpraxis.com or shoot me an email at mitchell@discoverpraxis.com. Always happy to talk.
Cool. And that will all be in the show notes
Sounds good.
of the post as well. Thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating on iTunes. Is the best thing you can do to support my show. Mitch, one more time, man. It was a real pleasure. We'll do this again.
Yeah, you bet.
See ya.